April 14th, 1912. The largest, most luxurious ship ever built hits an iceberg and sinks to the bottom of the North Atlantic. 1,500 people gone in under 3 hours. The Titanic has been sitting on the ocean floor for over 110 years. 2.5 miles down, in complete darkness, crushed under the weight of the entire ocean above it. And people have been asking the same question ever since. Could we bring it back up? Not just dreamers either. Engineers, salvage experts, billionaires. Real plans have been drawn up. Real money has been spent trying. So today, we're finding out, could we actually raise the Titanic? And if we tried right now, what would happen? Stick around, because the answer involves ping pong balls, liquid nitrogen, and one of the most heartbreaking discoveries in ocean history. First, where exactly is it? The Titanic was discovered in 1985 by oceanographer Robert Ballard, sitting roughly 370 miles south of Newfoundland, Canada. It's about 12,500 feet down. That's 2.5 miles of freezing, pitch-black ocean on top of it. And here's the first problem. It's not in one piece. The Titanic broke in half as it sank. The bow and stern are separated by about 2,500 feet of ocean floor, with a massive debris field of furniture, luggage, machinery, and personal belongings scattered in between. The ship itself is in terrible shape. Over a century of salt water, pressure, and deep-sea bacteria called iron-eating microbes have been slowly eating the hull. Scientists estimate the Titanic could completely collapse within the next 20 to 30 years. Parts of the deck have already caved in. The iconic crow's nest is gone. The grand staircase, completely dissolved. So whatever we're raising, it's not the majestic ship from the movies. It's a deteriorating, crumbling wreck in 2 separate pieces on the bottom of the ocean. You might be surprised. People have genuinely tried to raise it. The most famous attempt came before the ship was even found. In 1977, a company proposed attaching nearly 180,000 pounds of pontoons to the hull, filling them with gasoline, which is lighter than water, and floating it up. After Ballard discovered the wreck in 1985, a British company proposed injecting 180,000 tons of Vaseline into the hull to make it buoyant. Yes, Vaseline. The plan was real. Then there was the ping pong ball idea. Inject 180 billion ping pong balls into the hull to create enough buoyancy to lift it. This one actually has some engineering logic behind it, but the sheer number of balls required and the structural state of the ship made it impossible. A more modern proposal involved liquid nitrogen. Freeze the entire wreck in a giant block of ice and float it to the surface. Theoretically interesting, practically an engineering nightmare. Now, let's talk physics. The Titanic weighs approximately 52,000 tons, sitting under 12,500 feet of water, where the pressure is roughly 6,000 pounds per square inch, 400 times greater than at the surface. The bow section has sunk several meters into the mud. It's not just resting on the floor, it's been swallowed by it. Any cables or lifting equipment attached to the hull would need to handle forces that would tear apart most conventional materials. The structural integrity of the ship is so compromised that attempting to lift it would likely cause it to disintegrate entirely before it got anywhere near the surface. And the depth problem makes everything worse. At 12,500 feet, visibility is 0 without artificial light. Water temperature is just above freezing. Robot submarines can operate at that depth, but they're slow, limited, and incredibly expensive. Just sending a crew down to assess the wreck costs millions of dollars per dive. The OceanGate Titan tragedy in 2023, where a submersible imploded trying to reach the Titanic, showed just how unforgiving that environment truly is. Here's the part that makes engineers give up entirely. Even if you solved the physics and the depth, the ship is falling apart faster than we could ever raise it. Iron-eating bacteria called Halomonas titanici were discovered on the wreck in 2010. They form rust formations all over the hull, and they are consuming it constantly. Scientists estimate that within 20 to 30 years, the Titanic will have deteriorated to the point where nothing structurally recognizable remains. By the time humanity developed the technology needed to raise the Titanic intact, the Titanic will no longer exist. The ocean is winning. But here's something that actually happened. Pieces of it have been raised. RMS Titanic Inc. recovered a massive section of the hull in 1998 called the Big Piece, 17 tons, with 2 portholes still intact. It now sits in a museum in Las Vegas. Thousands of artifacts have been recovered: dishes, shoes, jewelry. And in 2020, a court approved cutting into the wreck to recover the Marconi wireless telegraph, the radio that sent the famous distress signals. But many argue the Titanic should be left alone entirely. It's a gravesite. Over 1,500 people died there, and many were never recovered. Disturbing it feels wrong to a lot of people, and there are now international agreements protecting the site as a maritime memorial. So could we actually raise the Titanic? No, not the whole ship. Not even close. The weight, the depth, the pressure, and the deterioration make it effectively impossible with any technology we have now or are likely to develop in time. What we can do is recover artifacts, document the wreck, and keep the story alive. The Titanic is one of the most studied shipwrecks in history, and maybe that's the best kind of raising we can do. Not pulling it out of the ocean, but making sure the world never forgets it's down there. Drop a comment. If you could raise one thing from the bottom of the ocean, what would it be? And what theory should we cover next? Thanks for watching Theories Explained. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you next theory.